A new Arizona Republican investigation looks at the issue of homelessness in Phoenix 2 years after the city's closing of a downtown homeless encampment known as The Zone. Joining us now is Republic and azcentral.com reporter Helen Rummel, and also from the Republic and azcentral.com reporter Catherine Rager. Good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be here.
Helen, we're going to start with you. Explain this project, why it was taken on, what was the thinking beforehand?
So we had started this project a while ago. It had been several months prior to publication when we started planning what we wanted to look at, which was how has homelessness progressed in Phoenix and the surrounding suburbs since the zone was cleared out 2 years ago. And we wanted to look at what that meant across the board. So homelessness takes many different forms in our city, and it affects people both who are living in the street, who are living in cars, shelters, and those who are living in homes around them. And so we just started from there and then continued.
And it sounds like, Catherine, at least a third of those who lived in the zone, they're still unhoused.
Yeah. It's really, and the thing is this was a part I played in it because, I've covered this for a while. The apathy about the problem is just shocks me. It breaks my heart. And housing experts, Tom Simplot, the former head of the housing department, city councilman, Sheila Harris, they say it, they feel it,
Why do they think the public attitudes are shifting?
Well, we tried to figure that out and talk to different people, but, I think it's people get a little, burned out. They have other problems on their mind. We don't have the money to address it that we did. But when I talk to people who, maybe aren't in downtown often, and they're like, I don't know, I'm like, we work in downtown. I live in Central Phoenix. It's everywhere, and it's worse.
Helen, did you get a feeling that for those who are, worried about the problem, have dealt with the problem for years, that there's a bit of exhaustion going on?
I think what our colleagues and I found was that there maybe is this sense that there aren't easy solutions. And I think when it's difficult to pinpoint easy, simple solutions, it can sometimes feel like things are hopeless. And that's not necessarily the case. But as Phoenix has continued to see the growing population of homelessness, it can be difficult to see a way forward, especially when, like Catherine said, more people are facing this issue head on, even when they weren't in years past.
Why the increase? What's going on out there?
So several reasons can explain that. Partially it is just due to the cost of living increases. Rent prices have increased across the county. We also saw over this past year in Maricopa County, more than 1,000 shelter beds were lost over this past year due to the loss of COVID funding that we saw over just since the pandemic. And so those things combined with all of these factors that contribute to homelessness.
And things like, from your story, illness, being abandoned by family members, these sorts of things, they play a factor as well?
Yes, and another tragic point is the growth in senior homelessness. And trying to keep up with that. And we also see it because, I cover housing. I noticed this huge drop in home prices in a neighborhood in Central Phoenix where FQ Story and they're located. And I went and talked to a bunch of the neighbors, and it's because the zone has spread out.
Oh my goodness.
Because these people need, a place to go, and they're not in shelters. And those neighborhoods are now, they're sympathetic and they want to help, but then there's also safety issues. When it's cold and they're building fires. And so the fact that it's impacting home values.
Catherine mentioned, we're seeing older folks, increasingly seeing older folks, but do those in the parks and those in the streets and the alleys, do they have a similar story? Or is every story, we'd like to think every individual is different, but are there similarities here?
Yeah, you raised a great point that there are so many differences, and my colleagues and I tried very hard to lay out what those look like across groups of people. They're very different, and each person, like you said, has an individual story. But some of the trends that we're seeing there is an uptick, particularly of younger adults that we're seeing who are becoming homeless. Like Catherine mentioned, older adults are becoming homeless at a much faster rate, and also for the first time for many of these folks who are seniors who have never faced housing insecurity before, facing it for the first time over the age of 65 is a particular trend that we've noticed.
Go ahead, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to say, so, Social Security hasn't kept up with rent increases, you know, and so you see these people who their cost of living, they can't afford it. And I see them, you know, on the corner asking, you know, for money. And it's like, I met an 80-year-old woman out there, you know, she goes, I can't pay my rent, my rent isn't coming. And it's like, where do they get help?
Okay, good question. Where do they get help? Is there temporary housing? We've done so many shows with so many nonprofits and city organizations and county organizations. They provide beds, they provide housing. It's out there. Is there not enough? Are they not being used? What's happening?
Well, a lot of them have waiting lists, extensive waiting lists.
So they are being used.
Yeah,
Yes.
extensive waiting lists. And you'll talk to people, and we have some of the stories like, I've been waiting 3 months to get in somewhere. And, you know, and somebody else with children, we need a place for children. I've been waiting 6 months. And they're on the streets and tell that, you know, and I think really great people are working really hard on this. And we felt like we're maybe because the count was down the year before. And so people thought, oh, this is getting better. This is getting better. But it's not.
The impact of urban camping laws, the you know, severity of those, that they've increased. Again, it's part of that shifting public attitude. These urban camping laws, how's that affecting the numbers and what you saw and heard?
So what we were hearing from folks is, like you said, there is more enforcement, particularly in the area that was the subject of the zone lawsuit from years past, where folks are being criminalized in some cases, and they are receiving tickets for sleeping in certain areas and for blocking sidewalks. And so that can make it more difficult for people to find services because of the way that some of these enforcements are coming down on them. The city has made it very clear, both in Phoenix and other municipalities have made it clear that they have attempted to offer with services first, as opposed to trying to come in and policing them in a more aggressive manner. But what we are hearing from folks is that is not always stopping them from facing repercussions for just sleeping outside.
So what are the most effective, we got about a minute or so left here, what are the most effective mitigation efforts?
Oh, that's tough. You know, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So what we have seen is that housing first policies, when we talk to experts, housing first policies are shown time and time again to be the most effective and also sometimes the most cost efficient ways for municipalities to approach this issue. And that doesn't necessarily mean that people are only offered housing and no other services. That means that they get support in a variety of ways while also getting that housing. But we are also seeing that federal policy is moving away from housing first policies, which is really one of the most concerning trends that we've noticed, is that going forward, that is not seeing the same support that it was before.
And real quickly, affordable housing losing steam at city halls around the valley?
Yes, a bit. You know, the NIMBYism is strong, and people have this perception that it's like the Section 8 housing of the 60s and 70s, and it's not. You know, you get a voucher, and some of these complexes are so nice and really great, and that's getting people in housing they can afford.
All right, Catherine Rager, Helen Rummel, congratulations. A great project, great investigative work there. We appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.